Can you just my rule in life is just don't be a cunt. That's it.
Yeah.
Just don't be a cunt. My one rule, don't be a cunt. That's it.
Yeah. No, we're going to get into, because this is so right. This is our third time lucky. We're just going to go for it now. So anybody that's watching, you can probably tell that there's a bit of lag on the visuals. You should be able to hear us fine. So please just put up with that. I do apologise. I'm not sure what's going on. It's everywhere that I go. It's all, whatever Wi-Fi I'm using. So I've come across to my mother-in-law's today because her Wi-Fi is better than mine, and the same thing's happening. So again, if you are watching, I do apologize. Please subscribe anyway. They will get better. So Emily, thank you once again for coming on to the Outside Looking In podcast that I do. The reason we've got to go through this again, sorry. The reason we are doing this podcast is because I did a podcast with Esther K, who is a political commentator on GB News, etc. She agreed to do it. She was just following me on Twitter randomly, so I messaged and said she fancy doing a podcast, and it was about obesity that we was going to do it. However, she is right in the middle of, it's still going on. She's in a big war of words, actually, like a lot of women are. A lot of sort of, what term do you want? I'm just going to use the term biological women, or just women. I'm just going to use the term women. Yeah. I'm just going to use the term women. So a lot of women are embroiled in this war because they're saying that their spaces are being taken over, that their rights are being taken away. And Esther was really big on that. She, doesn't want transsexual women using the toilets with her. She doesn't want transsexual women using changing rooms in swimming pools, etc. I put some clips up of that podcast and some of the comments she made on TikTok. I got told that I was a transphobe because I hadn't challenged her on certain things. I didn't tell her off when she described people in her DMs as angry blokes in wigs. Again, I don't see why I need to tell her off. It's not something I'm that bothered about. Do you know what I mean? I don't see the need for me to be super pro-trans to prove that I'm not full of hatred for the trans community. Do you know what I mean? It's not part of my life. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
like, let's be honest, Ricky, it's not part of anyone's life. Like, most people never come into contact with someone like me.
No, okay? I've had come into contact with a couple of trans women. We'll get onto that at one point. I thought I was going to get beat up by one on a train.
Yeah, we still fight.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and this is when actually my attitude, so like I'm saying, I will call you she, no worries. I accept that you are living as a woman, absolutely no qualms with that at all. We'll get right into it, do you know what I mean? But when I thought that it was going to kick off, I all of a sudden thought, that transsexual woman is built like a man here, so I need to be careful that I don't get beat up, because that'll end up on the internet. That'll end up on the internet, and all my mates would kill me forever. I'd never live it down. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But anyway, right. So you then popped up where I was being called transphobic, etc. I don't think you were replying to anything regarding myself, but you popped up just saying that you were trans and that you actually agree with a lot of what Esther said, and even the stuff that she said that was, a bit offensive. You were saying that you think that is just born out of frustration, the situation we've ended up in, where myself, like I was saying, I was sort of defending the trans community in places. I then got told what was I telling you earlier? I got told that actually I was upholding white supremacy by the end of the conversation, and I was like, I'm out.
Amazing considering your ethnic minority.
Absolutely incredible comment. When I had read that, I just thought, I don't know what anyone's talking about here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what anyone's talking. I got told that I shouldn't have made the podcast because I didn't do absolutely heaps of research into the whole trans issue. And it's like, well, what? So I'm not allowed to talk about it unless I'm a complete expert in something, which is,
you know how much hate we're going to get for this, don't you?
Oh, who cares? Who cares? Because the thing is I think that you're a more fair reflection of the trans community, and I'm definitely what I'd class as just your pretty average normal bloke. Do you know what I mean? I'm you're British bloke. I'm ethnic. Do you know what I mean? I'm half Indian, but actually, British culture. I go to work. I come back from work. I look after my kids. I try and pay my bills, etc. I these days try and earn an honest living. After failing I failed a lot at trying to earn a dishonest living. But you know what I mean? I'm just an average guy, and I don't hate anybody. The big thing for me is when most of the people that I know, your average British male, heterosexual, white van man, when they actually get put on the spot and asked, like, what's your views on transsexual women or trans people in general, you usually get the same answer: as long as nobody's hurting anybody, let people live how they want. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that I'm going to get involved and I'm going to suddenly be out, partying with the trans. It just means that I'm not really that bothered. Not yet. Not yet. Don't rule it out. But so the big thing is that you actually agree with Esther regarding toilets, regarding women's spaces, regarding the fact that she will say that a trans woman cannot be exactly the same as a woman.
Of course they can't.
So let's pick it up there again.
Okay. Yeah, for the third time.
Third time, yeah.
So let's just get this out of the way. Like, I don't claim to be a woman. I'm a trans woman. Like, no amount of playing around with hormones and doing choppy is going to change the fact that I was born a dude. Right. Okay. So like that's not going to change. Okay. So the way that I personally look at it is that we're kind of like more like a third gender, like the Fa'afafine of Samoa or Tonga or Fiji, where you're certain guys that are like usually the younger ones in the family that are like effeminate, grow up as girls, they're brought up as girls, and they're like a third gender, so they're not a woman, they're not a man, they're their own thing. Like, and it's really hard for us in the West with our kind of, because our society's built on sort of Victorian values, like, so you got man, girl, like, and that's it. And and we're going to come on to like women's spaces and which I wouldn't use. And like, honestly, like, I mean, if I'm in the pub, I use the disabled toilet. And we'll come on to that later. But what I would never do is use a woman's changing room. Like, I haven't had bottom surgery yet. So like, but even then, like, I mean, I've got no interest in girls, so it's like, honey, you're perfectly safe. Actually, for me, if I was to use a boys' changing room, that would be more awkward for me, because it's kind of, well, I've grown my own tits now, and we'll come on to that later. But I wouldn't. And this is something that I think that really marks you out if you claim to be trans. It's like, hang on, we should be respecting our cis sisters, the girls who are actually women, born women, who feel uncomfortable around someone who is biologically a male when they're naked and vulnerable. Like, even think as a trans person that it's okay to invade that space and go, no, I'm trans now. No. Girl, like, no, that's not okay. Like, why would you even think that that's okay? Even if you've got no interest in women.
Well, that was the thing that I was saying, that I am absolutely uncomfortable with the fact that when women are coming out and saying, no, this isn't right, they're told to shut up. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. So if a woman's now coming out and saying, well, this actually feels like you're taking away my rights, she's told to shut up. And we probably are going to get in trouble for this, because where I've now been looking at this whole issue, what I will say, and I'll probably cop some flack for this, is I've noticed that the small minority of trans that are making the noise and saying that, women are transphobic for saying that, it doesn't seem to take them long to start hitting the women saying it with misogynistic insults when they start arguing. And all of a sudden...
Okay. So while we're there,
Yeah.
they also still look like totally like dudes. Like, come on, like let's just call a spade from the start, okay? So, like, if you've not made any effort and you're kind of like 6'4", built like a brick shit house, honestly,
Yeah,
like,
it's just it's like me, isn't it? Just literally saying to you, oh, by the way, I'm a woman.
Yeah, okay, and I can look at you and go like, no, you're not.
No, but I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. No, I am. Like, it doesn't matter what. Doesn't matter what you say. I'm telling you, I'm a woman.
That is kind of like 1984 George Orwell kind of insanity, right? Because that is not reality. That is literally changing. You're trying to force someone to change their perception of the universe, and so you can't do that. And what's happened now is that transphobia has actually been, like, I have never experienced it at all, apart from one time back in the early 2000s. Right, I have never experienced it. Everyone has been super cool with it. Like, people have come out to me who are like, you know, tradesmen and things like that, and you know, and they've come around and it's just they wanted to talk about things, and that's the John. It's been so sweet, but the thing is that if you try and force something down someone's throat, they'll vomit. And what we're seeing now is that vomiting happening now, and what we're seeing is people going like, and it's a typical British reaction. It's such a British reaction where you've gone like, do you know what? You're taking a piss. Fuck off. Sorry, I'm swearing. That's bad.
Yeah, we can swear. We can swear. Do you know what? I'd say this. I remember back in the 90s, and obviously, like you said, I'm a person of color, but I'm mixed race. I grew up around white people. All my friends are white. I come from a white background. So, you know, but white. I'm British white culture. I just happen to be brown, kind of thing. But I remember in the 90s when there was the mass immigration issue, and, you know, people that weren't racist were highlighting it or bringing it up, and they were being told they were racist for saying it, for simply saying, I think too many immigrants are coming to our town at one time and it's changing the landscape of it. They were then being told, you can't say that, you're racist. And eventually, some of them just went, you know what, fuck it, I'm racist then. And it was really sad to watch, because my friends that weren't racist eventually felt so sort of beaten down with the racist stick that they just went, well, fine, I'll be racist then. Fine, I'm racist, and I'm not ashamed of it. And it's like, I was looking thinking you're not racist. You know what I mean? You really aren't. But they've ended up sort of taking on the mantle. So, you know, is that the same kind of thing?
Okay, so there's a thing called cognitive dissonance, right? So the friends of yours that would have gone like, Ricky's my mate, and he's half Indian or Pakistani, whatever it is, right? He's my mate, and I'm fine with that. But all them Pakis over there, don't like them. And the thing is okay. So, and I use that word advisedly because I'm about to use the word tranny. So you call me a tranny, I don't care. I don't care. You call me what the fuck you want. Like, it's just a word, right? And except cross dresser, don't call me that. Don't call me that. You're going to get a bitch slap, right? Because that's right. But the thing is that, but realistically, it's like people will use words, and a word. What's a word? It's a sound. Like, it's only when it has a connotation that you artificially put on top of it that it becomes a thing. So,
well, I mean, the word, so the word "packy" got weaponized, kind of thing. So I've never heard that. I mean, I hear some people say it generalizationally, do you know what I mean? Just using it as a term to describe brown people. I don't like that word, and I'll always say, but I mean, we've been talking, you know, about this in that I'm aware that some people use the word coloured, especially in the Northeast where I ended up. When I first moved up here when I was 12, I come from London. And when I first moved up here, it was very white. And some people would describe me as coloured. They didn't mean that offensively at all. And it still doesn't bother me. If I hear somebody say, oh, yeah, Ricky is a coloured lad, it doesn't bother me in the slightest, because I know that they don't mean that in a horrible way.
Between that and person of colour?
Yeah. It doesn't faze me at all. It's more about the intention, isn't it? It's more about if they're using a word to intending to make me. So what I will say is the word "packy," I've only ever heard it when people are trying to make me feel, bad for the fact that I'm brown. So I don't particularly like that word. But again, I worked for the council for a bit. I was a bin man. And, these were old white guys from the northeast of England that, had worked on the bins all of their lives. And they would say, I'm just nipping to the packy shop. And because I don't like that word, eventually, I pretty much straight away said, look, I don't really like that word. It wasn't a big deal, though. I didn't, jump on my bloody soapbox and label everybody racist. I just explained why I don't like that word. And naturally, because I didn't make a huge deal of it, because I didn't label them racist, I just explained why I don't like that word. They all naturally, without me asking, changed their terminology and would just say, going to the Asian shop. One day they just say, we're going to the shop. But do you know what I mean? It was a little thing like that.
But you've just highlighted something, okay, which is, it is much better to persuade someone than it is to force someone to do something. Okay. And it's actually a lot easier to persuade someone to do something than it is to force them. Okay. Because what you do when you force someone is they get their back up. If you persuade them. So I live in rural Devon, probably the least metropolitan place in the universe, with, big farmers and, lots of tradespeople and people that you would think would be massively transphobic. And you know what? Every single one of them would beat the shit out of anyone that came for me. They're my boys. I love them. And but it's interesting that the sort of low key, and you probably get this with sort of the ethnic side of things, but that low key kind of transphobia I get more from middle class liberals than I do from any of the working boys, and I find that really sad, because it's you're pretending to be cool with it. It's if you're not cool with it, just say. If you want to be an asshole, at the end of the day, if you want to call me whatever you like, I don't care. Honestly, if you're an asshole, you're an asshole, and I'll just not talk to you. Do you know what I mean? And you're probably going to get a shit kicking from those boys there. Do you know what I mean?
You're protected in your ends.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But the thing is, the reason why I'm protected is that I haven't ever forced myself on anything, on anyone, and I don't demand special treatment. It's just hey, I'm me, and everyone is just so cool with it. And literally until all this shit had just kicked off with the sports stuff,
I think that's what's brought it right to everybody's attention.
Yeah,
which we'll get on. But other than that, so I'm just going through the notes here. You don't use changing facilities, you don't use toilets, you don't think that you should be able to, or because I was asking a female friend of mine, a heterosexual female friend of mine, and she was saying that she thinks that trans women should be able to use women's toilets. So I know there are some that do, but I would say the majority of them. I mean, she's one of the very, very few heterosexual females I know that are comfortable with it.
Okay, so let's slay this little beast early. Okay, so if some 6'4" bloke in a dress turned up badly shaven and in ridiculous, and walked into women's toilets, they'd be if I walked into the women's toilets, usually the girls come with me to the girls got the toilet in packs, we know that. They come to the disabled with me. If I'm in a pub where I'm really well known, it's we'll all go in there, and it's you share a cubicle, no one cares, it's only anatomy, I'm not gonna fuck you, that's different. And so if you've made an effort, I'm all of 5'6" and a bit, I got size 6 feet, the girls come borrow my dresses, they borrow my shoes, and that's different that if you're kind of a dude in a dress. I hope I don't look like a dude in a dress, but a dude in a dress, and people will accept, people don't mind me doing it, even though I choose to use the disabled, but they're well, come with us. It's does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I've got one of my average bloke questions, because you said that you won't get offended.
Yeah.
Do you sit down? Do you sit down and do you lady piss, or do you stand up? I've got to ask because these are the questions. These are the questions that average lads are like. How does that work? Then?
No, it's fair. It's fair. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I'm pissed and I can't be bothered, it's just like, okay, so like tucking, right?
Yeah.
So let's get your dick.
No, I know what tucking. Even straight lads have tucked when they're kids.
Okay. So like, if you do everything to undo to like do it, it's like because it gets less sticky and it's like okay. So it's like, nah, fuck it. Like there's no one here. It's like I'm not pretending. It's just like, John, I'm just gonna piss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the first of what I'm sure are going to be many what I'm going to label just average bloke questions.
Yeah, and I'm fine with questions.
Just so women have used the law to forcibly invade. This is off your notes where you're saying that women have used the law to forcibly invade men's private spaces like men-only clubs for decades. So in a way, they're getting a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, I mean, look, men-only space, like men having been one, men do value their own space. Men will just want to hang out with dudes and just do things, just like swear and do their thing. And women want to spend their time in women's spaces doing their thing. So there was this big thing. I remember it like mostly in the 90s where there was this like all these court cases where like golf clubs and stuff were forced to allow women into the space. It's like, hang on, girls, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, no, I've been seeing people saying that this is feminists' fault. I've seen that said a couple of times, that this is
totally. Yeah.
And I remember where I grew up in South Shields in Leygate, we had a working men's club that on a Sunday, women weren't allowed in one side of it. They were allowed in, I think, the lounge they were allowed in, but they weren't allowed in the bar area. And if they wanted anybody that was in there, they had to get the guy at the front desk to put a message over the sort of tannoy saying so and so. And obviously some of the husbands would just ignore it.
Because hang on, but why do you think that was? Right, because it wasn't about out and out sexism.
No.
Right, it was about that in the bar side, the men could talk, like, because you weren't in those days, you weren't allowed to swear in front of a lady.
No,
you weren't allowed to do these things, but like you had to be chivalrous, and so you didn't swear in front of a lady. So the bar side was just that part, like in the lounge side, you behaved as a man, and in the bar side, you could be a bloke and you could watch the racing and you could say fucking cunt and no. Right, that was the crack. Right, but you didn't swear in front of a lady, like, because blokes need their own space. And
and it's funny now that everybody's all of a sudden focusing on men's suicide and things like that, and saying, lads, it's all right to talk about stuff, blah blah blah. It's like, well,
we did.
We did. Yeah, we used to. Do you know what I
mean? But we used. But the thing is, I'm still a dude. At the end of the day, but we used to talk to each other. We did, and what worries me is that, like, with all this kind of encroachment onto and kind of almost like the feminization of male space, which I'm totally against. Totally, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, hang on, if you're gonna hit me with the you can't come into female space, it's like, well, hang on, girls, like, keep the fuck out of the boy spaces then.
Yeah.
Like, don't come for them.
I think that it'll start going back to. I think there'll be some men's spaces start popping up again, and that, I don't know, maybe we'll sort of meet everybody halfway. Hopefully, who knows?
There's probably going to be a reset real soon, hard, and it'll be hard. It'll be hard. But I mean, let's go through what happened. Like, so me being trans, why the fuck am I trans? Like, and how did I know?
Yeah.
Okay, so like, obviously I was born a boy.
Yes.
Anyone that knows me knows that I wasn't meant to be a boy.
No.
Okay. And one of the things that I did was I sent you a link to an Australian TV show called First Day.
Yeah, and I watched the first episode of it, and
If you only watched the first
I've
one.
only watched the first one. I probably will get around to watching the rest of it. Sorry, it's because you sent me the first link. I couldn't find the others. I couldn't find them anywhere. But again, this is where I sort of like after I watched it, I again took a bit of umbrage at the idea that I'm transphobic, because that TV program is about a trans girl's first day at school. And, you know, a lot of it was about her being really scared that people were going to find out. And I couldn't help but become really anxious for the character. Do you know what I mean? And I was worried for her. And I was thinking, oh, I hope people don't find out. I hope that, you know, that her first day at school isn't terrible. So I had natural empathy towards the issue.
So you were a human being that understood normal human feelings.
Mm.
There you go. Like that's it. That's all we want. Like,
and when when we was talking, and you said that you used to cry yourself to sleep on a nighttime when you were like 4 years old. That makes me really sad, because you're a 4-year-old child. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that you're going through that isse at such a young age, I've got loads of sympathy, and I think that it must have been a horrible time. So that's why I get a bit frustrated because I then might use the wrong pronoun or say the word mate. All of a sudden, oh, well, actually, you're a bad person. You're a transphobe. You should be really ashamed of you. And it's like, well, I don't think I am. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I am.
No, you're not. And no, do you know what? Unless you turn up and beat the shit out of me, you're not a transphobe. Like, unless you're like nasty, like genuine, like, and you mean it, like, because we all know. I can say, oh, you're a good cunt, and that means it's good. That's an Australian thing.
Yeah.
Or like, snarl it, you fucking tranny cunt, like that. Like that. Same words, different. Same words, different. Like completely different meaning and completely different context. You don't mean like nothing that you have ever done or said to me has ever made me think you're in any way trans or homophobic, right? So like I need you and everyone else is watching this that has been accused of that shit when they just asked a question. Like, no, you're not transphobic. Like, please, the more you ask me, the more, like, I'll tell you everything straight, like tell you straight. And I would rather persuade you that I'm not an asshole and not a monster than and tell you what, like, the actual biology stuff, because we're going to come on to the biology, particularly with like youngsters coming through. We're going to come on to that. But I would rather you understand and empathize, because I've explained everything to you, and you can ask whatever you want, rather than you go like the other thing, you're a transphobe, I hate you, because all you're gonna do is go like, you fucking tranny, you fucking horrible tranny. And it's like,
it's back to the 90s racism thing.
Exactly. It's like you stick a BLM protester on fucking on the TV, and everyone goes like, oh, you're a cunt, right? And like, they in no way represent the ethnic communities that they claim to represent, in the same way as like when you have like trans people that they manage to find that's like got pink hair and a beard, and you're like, oh, why did you choose that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, that I think all that thing that happened where everybody went out onto the streets, because it wasn't just BLM, was it? It was the opposite side. The far right went straight out as well, and then everybody came out. I'm sure because that was during COVID and all the festivals had been cancelled. I think it was because there was no festivals for people to blow off some steam, So everybody just went out, kicked off. But anyway, let's get back to your story. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that you knew from such an early age, because that's going to tie in with some of the other stuff that we're talking about, where I've got some questions, but you knew right from an early age that you...
super early. Like I grew up, like boys do boy things and girls do girl things, right? And I was just more interested in like playing, like, you know, when you do like because kids do let's pretend, don't they? And like, I wanted to do the sharp stuff. I wanted to be like the nurse. I wanted to do all that, like, and all the boys were out there being like firemen and stuff like that. I was like, nah, fuck that shit. And and the thing is even like when we were doing sports and stuff, like, I always be chosen last. And I remember I would have been, in our day, it would have been second year juniors. My like teacher did the netball team, and I go up to her and I said, "Miss, can I come and play netball with the girls?" And she's like, looked at me like I just said, "Can I shoot you in the head?"
Yeah.
And I was like, She's like, "No, you're a boy." And I said, "No, I'm not, miss. Like, I don't know why it. No, I just want to come play with the girls." Okay. And she was like, "No, you can't." This is in the 80s, you know. And like, if that had happened now, my life would have been very, very different. My voice wouldn't have dropped, so I wouldn't have to be doing, I don't know, my voice is not hurt now. And and so like my life would have been different. And like, I don't expect you normal people that and I say that from a place of love, like, you normal people, as in, like, I don't expect you to understand this in the same way as I wouldn't expect you to understand, I don't know, ADHD or psychopathy or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not something that you live. Does that make sense? So,
yeah, of
like,
course. I mean, and this is the thing. I think that, and again, I keep using the term average bloke. I just think a little
yeah,
bit too much is being asked of us. Do you know what I mean? To have this full
totally,
understanding, like, oh,
totally.
you've got to accept everything that's said to you, or you're a transphobe. And I'm like, oh, you know, I just
But the
like,
thing
can I
is,
not?
is that when I explained to you as
Yeah,
an average bloke what I went through as a youngster, right,
yeah,
which you have no understanding of. And I don't expect you to have an understanding, but like literally every bloke I have ever said this to, like, and told them my story, they've been like, wow, wow, okay. You know, because, like, you know what? None of you, like, honestly,
well,
no
nobody wants a child to be unhappy, do they?
No, and that's the other thing. So if you've got a kid that's going through this, right? And I mean, like, loads of dudes go like, "Oh, if my kid was ever gay, God, no, I fucking wouldn't." I said, "Fuck off." Yeah, you would. You'd be absolutely fine with it because it's your son, you know, or your daughter, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Would you rather see them die? Would you rather walk into their bedroom, see them hanging off the fucking edge of their bed? No, you probably wouldn't, right? So you're going to come to peace with it pretty fucking quick. And you should
Yeah,
be.
well, again, that leads to another thing where why the whole transphobe label sort of pisses me off. I was at sea because I've just come out of the Navy, and I met a guy called, I won't say his name actually. I met a guy in the Merchant Navy, and he was an average bloke, if you like. And then I on my very last trip, his name came up, and I found out that he trans to a woman, and I was quite shocked by that. But then I found out that when he trans to a woman, his family disowned him, and he then went on to commit suicide. And my immediate thought was, "You fucking cunts!" Do you know what I mean? For disowning him, like, even if you don't understand it, it's like what we were saying there. You don't have to be super, pro everything to just say, all right, you just,
You do
I
you.
don't understand it. You do you though. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be horrible to you about it. And I don't see why that's not. Why can't we just accept the fact that, all right, we just won't be horrible to each other.
Like I said, I
Yeah,
said to you earlier, it's just my one and only true rule in life is just don't be a cunt.
yeah, don't be a cunt. Just,
Like, don't
be
be a
nice to
cunt.
us two now.
Like,
We're talking. So, hey,
it's
we're
it's
having
not
a normal
even like how,
conversation.
like, you don't necessarily have to sit there and clap and go like, I love trannies. Like, look, fucking no, just don't be a cunt, and
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fucking fine. And you know what? In return, I won't also be like, I'm not gonna come and stand there with my little pippy going like, hey, look, I'm in the ladies' changing room. Fucking no, of course I'm not gonna do that because that's wrong. It's morally wrong for me to try and force myself into something that shouldn't be. It's like, do you know what? I'm the one that's in the minority. I'm the one that is trying to get acceptance because I'm breaking the normal mold. And do you know what? If you accept me, even if you go sort of halfway to perfect, that's still a long way. And so but it's wrong for me then to go like, no, I want more. I want more. I want more. Right? It's like, do you know what? I'll just use the disabled. That's grand. Because there's no skin off my nose. It's cleaner. It doesn't smell of piss. It's grand. Like, you ladies don't usually smell of piss, but the men's toilets are disgusting, as we all know. And the thing is, it's like, if I walk up to you, Ryan, I'll hitch my dress up and go like, ah. It's like, everyone's like, what the fuck? Although I still have
there's a massive part of me that would find that amazing.
Yeah, the thing is do you know what? One of the other things that I kind of do, because I'm a stage bitch from way back, and like an attention whore from way back, and I'm just like, do you know what? The more that you kind of make it like not a joke, but you can disarm it. You can disarm the whole issue, and whenever even if I think that it's going to start getting a little bit like, if you do get someone that's like a little bit, you can disarm it, and the next minute they're eating out your hand, and it's like, like all it required me to do was not be a cunt. And just kind of make a bit of a joke of it. Don't take myself too seriously, because the thing is it doesn't matter. Like, and this is the interest. Like, so we take it back to the racial thing. It's like, if you take it seriously, people get pissed off.
I say to people, and they think that I'm joking, but like I say to people, if there's a world where mates can't be casually racist to each other, or just if there's a world where mates can't just be casually horrible to each other about certain things, race being one of them, I don't want part of it. I don't want to be part of it. Do you know what I mean?
It's British to do that.
Yeah, like, and my mates know, like when we were talking about the word pack, my mates know, don't call me Packy, because that's, that for me, that's too far. But it's not like
that is to you the same as cross-dresser to me.
Yeah. But again, it's like what we're talking about. If somebody does say it and it's meant as banter, but they've just overstepped the mark, I'll just, say like, no, that's too much, mate. I don't like that word. But the rest of it, pretty much anything goes. Like the amount of stuff that I get called and call myself, do you know what I mean? And the grief that I give other people. Moving on from
if you mock yourself, you disarm what anyone else can say about you.
Yeah. So anyway, you knew at an early age that you're different, that you felt like you're in the wrong body. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah. And then how does that progress then? Do you know what I mean? That like,
Yeah. So you go through I was always tiny. Like I'm still relatively.
You keep saying this, Emily. You keep saying you're tiny and you're 5'6" and a bit, which means that you're actually a little bit taller than me. So it's just so less of the tiny.
Okay,
less of the tiny. Just
part Indian, part Hobbit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm half Indian, half Hobbit. So.
But do you know what? But I got size 6 feet,
right, okay.
Like that whole thing, so I'm lucky I got this thing that the crazy swivel-eyed lefties go like, oh, you got passing privilege, because you can wear shoes that normal girls can wear. You don't have flippers. It's like, yeah, you come and clap for me, but that does admittedly make my life a lot easier, a lot easier. Yeah, so growing up, but the thing is what we do is, as you grow up, and I got bullied so bad at school, so bad,
right.
as in I can remember things where I was thrown in skips, I was thrown in stinging nettles, every break time would be torture.
Yeah.
Because I was an easy target. I was tiny, I was effeminate, I wouldn't fight back, and I was ginger. So, that all of that didn't work so well for me. And that worked. ended up that I created like an artificial personality, because I learned that if I entertained people, that they would be less likely to beat me up during break time. So I became kind of a performer. I went from being like a super introvert to being like, well, everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, and I'm not. Like, it's just that I can project this personality that
it's a coping
is
mechanism.
entertaining. So it's so that was a creation, and then like I've allowed my natural personality to come back. So when I go out and like people who've known both of me, if that makes sense, go like, do you know what? Well, we so prefer Emily. She's so sweet and she's so nice, and she's still funny, but she's different. Like, even so, I've got a really good mate who's like I wouldn't say he's trans, but he's like a proper like man, you know, with beard and and I'd held off before I went full time. I held off for ages introducing him to Emily, because, like, you know, he comes around, he plays chess, we drink, we put the world to right, very deep philosophical conversations, things like this. And he was like, no, you're just a gay dude, and you just be a gay dude in a dress. And when he, like, we were very, very drunk, shall we say. And I said, like, I'm just gonna do it now. I'm just gonna introduce you to her now. And I just sat here, right where we are now, with a brush, like, done it. I said, I'm not gonna do it to kick your ass up. I'm gonna go put it in. Honestly, like, we sat down, we chatted for ages, and he was like, you are a girl. Like, I just thought you were gonna be like camp and just gay and shit. And it was like, you are actually a girl. I was like, that's the sweetest thing I ever heard. And then oh my god. Then he tried to shag me. Awkward.
We're gonna get into that as well. I've got a feeling that happens quite a bit.
Yeah. Like, okay, so I mean, human sexuality, like to say that there's gay and straight, nothing else, that's insane. That is insane. That doesn't happen in nature and doesn't happen in humans. So I mean, literally, the biggest sexually transmitted disease in sheep and goats is something called Brucella ovis.
Right.
And it's almost exclusively transferred by rams buggering other rams.
Right. Just so that anybody's we'll just take a moment to explain to anybody that's watching that you know that because you're a vet. So that's your profession. And also, while I'm taking this pause, because I have to do this, I have to try and get people to subscribe. So if you are watching and you don't hate us both, please press the subscribe button.
Subscribe.
In fact, you know what? If you do hate us, press the subscribe button just to get recreationally offended by the shit we come out with, because that's
just come and get angry and give us
I'm sure
more hate we get, more traffic we get. So
that's half the fucking internet, isn't it? People just go on it to make themselves angry with everybody else. So we'll move through these notes. Everybody
so there
came out in your mid-20s.
The one thing I was going to say, just because I kind of got digressed real quick, is when you kind of get to your late teens, early 20s, you end up doing the thing. You know, some people do it like long after that as well, but you do the thing called the purge. Where
I've never heard of this. I don't know what it is at all.
So basically, everything that you've kind of collected, all your makeup, all your wigs, your Shane Jeep, and you bin it all. You go like, I'm gonna, and you try to deny yourself. And it's like trying to deny you've got brown eyes or something, you know. It's like, no, I've got blue eyes, no. And it's silly because you throw everything out and then you got to start again later on, probably about 6 months later, and buy it all again.
Cost you a fortune.
So that's what the purging is. And it all happens because of shame. And in humans, like, shame is the most horrific thing that a human can feel. Because it is innately tied to the worst punishment. That when we were sort of still hunter-gatherers and things, it was the thing that if you were exiled, you weren't just so, like, I mean, if you were properly exiled, you went and died. You were thrown out of the village and you went and got eaten, because a human on their own is useless. But we still have that. is if you're socially cast out, it's horrible. It is a horrible and evil experience. So, you know, let's say if you're a pedo, right, you will be cast out. And rightly so, obviously, but you'll be cast out, and you'll be a social pariah. And being a social pariah, like, it can actually be quite dangerous, because that social pariah can actually turn around and be quite violent. So, we've kind of gone off on a tangent there, haven't we? Edit that out.
It's fine. It's fine. Where was I getting to? Let's go to the bit where you came out in your mid-20s.
Yeah.
So yeah, when did Emily arrive properly? Do you know what I mean? To the point where you were like, you know, no purging, no nothing. Here I am. I'm Emily. Deal with it.
It came in it came in stages.
Yeah.
So you kind of come out of close people, you kind of go to gay bars and shit, and because like that's where you feel safe. Even though I didn't, like, I don't feel like part of some like community, like I never have. I just kind of hang out with my mates, and as I became more confident, I was able to just go so I just go to straight places. I hang out, I just do normal things with normal people. Right, so I don't feel that I'm kind of in a box that's like, oh, you're like an LGBT. It's like, well, sort of technically, but I don't go to Pride or anything like that, you know, and I just do me. And things that, you know, you don't go to BLM marches, I don't go to Pride. Same day.
Got no time for that. I'm too busy.
Exactly. Even then, it's not like it's like no, that's political. I'm not political. I don't want to burn my like tranny bra and my little thingies. Nah, fucking shit. No, I just want to live my life in a small place where I live with the people that I love, and just live my life, and they accept me. Do you know what? That's all I want. That's all I want. I don't want like right. So trannies and stuff. Because do you know what? It don't affect me. Like, realistically, it don't. Even the gym that I go to, they're kind of like, I was like, I don't want any special. I just use the disabled and just go that way. And they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then I go and actually do the stuff with the girls. They're like, yeah, Emily, yeah. It's like, yeah. Because like most people just treat me as a girl. Like, so it's not like I don't personally have any really drama.
No.
Really.
Which I think that's probably the same for most adult trans people that, you know, have got to adulthood. Do you know what I mean? It's probably fucking being a teenager is hard for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I should imagine it.
Hang on. So we need to bring in right now the spectrum of trans.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's say 3/4 of it is purely kind of fetishistic, and it goes from kind of what we would call like the hairy panty wear at this end, that goes like, I just put on my wife's knickers and stockings and have a wank, like, good for you, whatever, right? And it kind of works that then there's like the cross dressers that are like, they're still fetishistic, so they'll dress up kind of like the things that they like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then it kind of gets to sort of transvestite kind of territory, where they're actually making a serious effort, and then it comes up to the transsexual bitch, where we're all on hormones and doing our thing. And like, for me, it's not sexual at all, like at all. It's not a fetish like it is for those.
Well, I've seen some stuff, you know, which is pretty clear that some people it is a fetish. You know, I've seen comments from people saying, oh yeah, the first thing I did when I trans was stand in front of a mirror and masturbate. And it's like, well, that's what, you know, I don't stand in front of a mirror thinking, yeah, look at me, I'm a man having a wank.
Don't know how they,
you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know how they did that, right? Because when you're on, we're going to come on to the sort of medicine and shit in a minute, but like when you're on these hormones and stuff, like your sex drive goes. Like,
but I'm assuming that they're not on the hormones, etc. Do you know what I mean? This is people that have just said, I identify as a woman, therefore I'm a woman, and you know, you can't just do that. Like, you know, you can get angry. You can get angry all you want that people aren't accepting that, but you know, and I'll probably
that's really interesting that you say that, right? Because I can say, I don't know, I'm a chicken, right? People look at no, you're not. You're clearly not a chicken. Okay, but when I am with people accept me as a female, which is great, and I'm really appreciative of that. Like, and do you know what? You know, if someone accidentally calls me by my dead name or uses the wrong, like, I'm not gonna get shit, but like most of the time, I don't even realize. To be honest with you, I don't care. Like, I've got bigger fish to fry than you called me by the wrong name, and I don't even realize. So we got better things to do. And if you're that, and it's the same with this whole kind of thing where if you need to use a toilet that's got a picture on of a girl on it, you need to have a like real serious talk with yourself, because if you need that level of affirmation, you're not trans. You're not trans, girl. Like, that is, if you need a little picture and go like, I'm a girl, like, nah, girl, you're not a girl. Like, if you need that level of like, come, I clap for me, like, nah.
What would your thoughts be on trans-specific toilets? Do you know what I mean?
Fine.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I like toilets. Like, I mean, there are plenty of like unisex toilets anyway.
Yeah.
The toilet, like, I mean, what level of weirdo do you need to be to get off in a toilet? Like, seriously, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? When it comes to changing facilities, I don't want to get naked in front of anyone, male or female. Like, do you want just have private changing spaces and then be done with it? Like, that's not even an issue then, is it? Because, like, you know, you got when I was still a boy and you would go into the gym and there'd be like old dudes walking around like naked. It's like, oh. It was horrible. It was like, oh, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. It's like, I don't want you to see me and I don't want to see that. But of course, like, obviously when I started growing, like, so obviously we're going to come on this, like, I've been on HRT for like a year and like, you know, you grow these girls and Joan's like, I don't want you to see what's going on here.
No.
Because either it's going to be, well, mostly it's going to be like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is wrong with you? And it's like, I don't want to explain that. So, and there's probably like people forget that there's things like fat phobia. Or I don't even mean to say that, but you know, people, and it's not. People are uncomfortable with their own bodies.
Yeah.
Like everyone is uncomfortable with themselves unless they're like a model. And even then, I know plenty of models that are like, I'm ugly, and you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, I'm ugly. I feel ugly. Right, well, you're clearly not. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah, so no, I totally see what you mean.
Everyone is batshit insane. Let's get this one right from the start.
But like what we said, there's no such thing as normal, is there? We're all weird. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
got a level of weirdness.
It'd be much better if we were just all supportive of each other's weirdness.
Yes, like, it would be much better, Emily, if we just don't be cunts, isn't it? That's the theme of the podcast.
Change the name of the podcast. Like,
just change it to just don't be a cunt. Go through us. This is what I wanted to talk about because this brings me to what happened on my Facebook, which really pissed me off. Like where you're saying here that trans women need to understand and accept that you're the ones asking you're the ones going against the grain of normality. So you need to be asking for acceptance and not demanding it. You need to be asking for it, kind of thing. And I don't know if you saw what happened. I think, yeah, you did because I tagged you in it eventually, and you saw what happened on my Facebook, and that really annoyed me because you said to me feel free to tag me and say if anybody's got any questions, do so. So I did that, and I'd originally been put in touch with a person. I can't work out whether they're trans or not, but I'd originally been put in touch with a person who was talking about coming on and doing this podcast about trans stuff. We'd had really productive conversations, etc. Do you know what I mean? And then there was a bit of banter on that thread. I wouldn't say there was anything that anybody needed to worry about. And then all that happened is that somebody used the word mate, and that person thought that they were being called mate. And within 2 or 3 comments, I got told that whole thread was full of toxic masculinity, misogyny, and bullying. And we were like, what was annoying is because the guy, like Nathan, he won't mind me naming him. Nathan inboxed me, so I don't know Nathan personally. We just know each other through Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I know that they were being really respectful on that thread, and they were holding back from the usual type of banter that I'm comfortable telling you that we would have amongst ourselves about certain things, do you know what I mean? As banter, which isn't anybody else's business. That's us having a laugh between ourselves kind of thing. So I know that he was behaving himself and that he was asking genuine questions, and he was debating something, about puberty blockers and things, which we're going to talk about. But he was debating it in a really calm, normal fashion. And then all of a sudden, because he said the word mate, that was it. He was a transphobe. I was a transphobe. We were toxic masculinity, bullies. Do you know what I mean? And he was messaging, just saying, "I'm really sorry, mate. I don't want to get you into trouble. I hope this doesn't come back on you." And eventually I said, "No, you don't need to. I'm actually gonna post something saying that's bullshit. Like, that's absolute bullshit to react like that to the word mate." So I just wanted to get that off my chest because
you called me mate. Oh my God.
Yeah, I just thought,
like, seriously, what I say to this shit, it's like, for fuck's sake, what is wrong with you? There's people dying in Ukraine, there's people dying of starvation around the world, and you're getting fucking hetty about being called mate. Like,
deleted me.
That's tragic. That is just the thing is this is everything. Like, so people like me, Blair White, because that's the trans girl that is hot. You said she's hot.
She's unbelievable. Yeah, she's unbelievable.
But the thing is, it's like, this is what we as the trans kind of, almost like the vanguard of the fight back, the troops that are coming through, going like, no, fuck off, like if you're that such of a fucking oh God, I just literally used the slur. It's like, if you're that much of a puff that you need, it's like, no, I'm a puff. Hang on, I'm a puff. I can use that word. I'm a puff, so I can use that word.
You can say it. You can say it.
It's like, if you're gonna be that much of a big girl's blouse, that like, if someone calls you mate, like I call my girlfriends mate.
Yeah.
I call them babe, I call them Han, I call them sweetie, whatever.
Well, I sort of came back at this person and said, like, I know people that call girls mate. I know people that do that. And then they said, oh, well, this was, I had to refrain myself as well, because they turned around and said, well, actually, I've noticed that since I changed my name on Facebook to a male name, people have started calling me mate, and they didn't do that beforehand. And my immediate thought was, don't fucking change your name to a male name then, you idiot. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you going on about?
Right.
I'm absolutely baffled by it. So
I mean, like, when you see this stuff, you're kind of like, what is going through your mind? Like, what thought process led you to right now? Right? Because this is insanity. This is insanity. I mean, what I do is crazy. Like, I'm clearly fucking insane. Like, this is probably the least insane bit of me. But, like, if you're at that point where you've changed your name, I don't know what it was before, but I think it was like Jake or something, or Jack or something like that. And it was like, someone assumes you're a dude because you've got a dude's name and a nondescript, like, you can't, like, it's like,
and then then started and that person then started complaining.
Pissed off. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
No, that person started complaining because they were saying that their pronouns were clear in their bio. Well, I don't check your bio. Do you know what I mean? I don't check someone's bio to make sure that if they're called Rupert, they don't want to be known as he, or do you know what I mean? It's like, why would I do that? Like, why am I expected to do that?
And what sort of idiot actually puts their pronouns in their profile? Like you have, because all like literally, if you see someone's pronouns in their profile, it just goes, "I'm a cunt." Like that's it. That's all you need to know. It's like I've got
it's
it's like cunt. Even if it's like she hurts cunt. Like you're a cunt.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things about the so-called, and this is actually the serious point, is like what people say about sort of LGBTQ, like it is almost like it is, we must conform to a set standard, which is pretty much left-wing, like far left-wing, like we are all in a group. It's like, hang on, no, I know plenty of like trans people, gay people, all sorts of people who are conservative.
Yeah.
No, and like when I say conservative, I don't mean members of the Conservative Party. I mean as in small c conservative, as in
just that's their views.
Socially conservative. It's like, do you know what? Just which is kind of live and let live. Do you know what I mean? And you know, you've watched plenty of Blair White stuff. You know, so me and her are on the same page. And I do recommend anyone that's watching this that has any kind of interest in it, just go and watch Blair White.
Yeah, no, I've watched a fair bit of Blair White. Yeah, very interesting. Super fit. I showed my wife Blair White. I showed my wife Blair White, and Blair, like, even my wife was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, and what I liked because I watched her with Joe Rogan and brought up another thing that sort of bugs me. Is where I've sort of said in the past and been told that I'm a terrible person for saying it, that if I went out, this is obviously hypothetically speaking, if I went out and met a girl and then we had sex and then afterwards I found out that person was trans and hadn't told me, I'd be furious. Like I would.
Hang on. Whoa, hang on. So are we talking? So well, presumably, because if you shag someone, if you're gonna shag someone who's like trans like me that hasn't had bottom surgery yet, you ought to know.
Yeah, no, I'd know. So this would be full. Yeah.
So we're gonna show some pictures shortly of trans girls, right? And I challenge any straight man to point at any of them and go, I wouldn't fuck them. I wouldn't. They're probably better than anything I fucked anyway. I challenge any man to go like, do you know what? No, I wouldn't do that.
But if they because if they told me first up that they were trans, then I wouldn't. And Blair was talking to Joe about it, saying, well, that's personal choice, and we can't have a go at somebody for choosing not to have sex with somebody. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of the reasons. That's like me saying that if you're a white person, you have to be attracted to Asian people. You have to have sex with Asian people, or you're racist. Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me.
Okay. I mean, do you know what? I mean, for obvious reasons, because I haven't had surgery yet, and it's not exactly unobvious, but I mean, I make no secret of the fact that I'm trans. So like for me, it's like, it's more of an issue for the young trans girls who've had like puberty blockers, like testosterone blockers, so they don't, like, you wouldn't know, like the pictures we're going to see shortly.
Should I put some up? Should I put some up? Should we get them up now? Let's do this now. Because I will say this. There was a couple I was like, oh my days. So who's the star of? So this is the. So she's the star of that TV program.
Yeah, so like for those of you, well, none of you will know because it's an Australian show, but she was the star of a show called First Day. There's 2 series of it, and it's about a trans girl starting secondary school. I mean, Ricky, look at her; she's beautiful.
Yeah, of course she is. Isn't it funny how it's so much sort of easier to accept? Do you know what I mean?
When they're pretty.
Based literally on the aesthetics. Do you know what I mean?
But because she's never had, and this is another one. So this is Hattie. Yeah. Like she's like they've been on the testosterone blockers, so they're not on estrogen.
Right.
So I mean, this girl, I think she's about 14, 15, something like that. But she's only on the testosterone blocker.
Right.
So you can't be like in the UK, they won't give you the. I mean, come on. I mean, Jesus Christ, she's stunning. She's stunning. I mean,
and this is where I started getting a bit uncomfortable because
that's great. Yeah. So
then we'll end it. By the time this one came around, I was like, "Oh no, what is going on? What is going on? Like, what is happening here?" And do you know what? I couldn't help but what I was just saying there. I can't help but sort of realize the paradox. I think would be the right word of the fact that I find it much easier to accept, but the fitter it becomes, sort of the more uncomfortable I am with myself, with my own reactions.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Let's cover this thing right now. Okay, so if you fancied any of those girls, you're not gay. Okay, you're not gay. Okay,
yeah.
So like, if you're gay, you fancy dudes. Like, most of the guys I know who are gay, like they don't want the little queenie one. They want another big dude. Okay. If you fancy a trans person, that doesn't, like, you're still attracted to the femininity, to the aesthetic. I mean, look at that girl. I mean, she's stunning. She's stunning, and at the end of the day, okay, so obviously there's the anatomy and stuff. Like, let's be honest, people get over it real quick.
You reckon?
Yeah. Well, I know. I know they get over it real quick. And so, particularly if there's sort of, drink and whatever involved, fuck it, because you only live once. And do you know what?
Do you know what? I know what you're saying, because I wrote in there, isn't it, as a joke, that it'd be easier to accept afterwards. If I found out afterwards, it's easier to accept if they look like Blair White.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The thing is that you were attracted to a female. You were attracted to a female form. She's got tits, like that type of thing. Like, you're attracted to that. Now the thing is that, I mean, look, there's a lot more gay people than there was, and there's like biological reasons, I think, for the increase in trans and the increase in gays. Because there's like everyone knows plenty of gays now, don't they? You probably know plenty.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I was down in London recently, staying at my friend's house, and he's gay, and he took me out on to GAY, the club in London, etc. It's no big deal. We had a really good night. I'm straight, he's gay. I'm actually friends with him for an old flatmate of my wife and me. We had a flatmate called Stephen, who's passed away sadly now, but he was gay. Do you know what I mean? So in the forces, like I said, nobody really cares anymore. You fucking just do what you do. Just make sure that you don't hurt anybody. Don't be a cunt, Emily.
Yeah. And top tip to the straight boys. Okay, easiest place to pull a straight woman is in a gay bar if you've got a gay mate.
Okay.
Because all the straight girls go in a gay bar because they're not bothered, and then they're like, you're his mate. Oh my god! Next minute. Top tip.
Well, there you go. There's the top tip. Go to gay bars. Right, let's roll down these. Where are we up to? Oh, the biology of. Should we do that? The biology of. Oh no, we're grown up trans. Sorry, we'll just go through these.
We did a little bit of this, so kind of like kind of growing up. Obviously, it was like I was super effeminate. Like, I was on the stage, I was in the choir. It was places where girls and gays went. So like gender wasn't an issue, and we'll come on to the sports thing later because that's the tinderbox, isn't it? So I'll take that to later. But the thing is what I will say to you before we come on to the biology bit is the effects of male puberty for a male to female transitioning person,
right?
Particularly with respect to voice. Right, because we're what's called a sexually dimorphic species.
Okay.
So things that are really obvious to us is facial hair and voice.
Yeah. So we'll get onto that now, because that's actually where the debate on my Facebook, that's how it started, because myself included and this Nathan was saying that puberty blockers make me feel uncomfortable, that I think what it is because we're stopping something that we feel is a natural part of a human growing up. What I will say is I'm starting to sort of look at it from the view that actually it must be horrible, because I've been talking to you where you're saying you knew from 4 years old that you're in the wrong body and that you want to be living as a woman. Do you know what I mean? And we all know from an early age, sort of, I knew I was heterosexual, not like I wasn't conscious of it, but I knew I was into girls at an early age. So I know that if you knew that you were in the wrong body, that's a real thing. It's not something you're just making up. It's not a phase. Do you know what I mean? Like my stuff wasn't a phase. You know that. So I'm starting to now think, oh, actually, yeah. If you already feel like you're in the wrong body, to then turn into a man mustn't be very nice. So I'm starting to sort of.
Because it can't be undone.
Because it can't be undone. But our thing that we were saying, and myself as well, is that I worry about, well, what about the psychological damage of if you do change your mind, then going through puberty in your mid-20s, let's just say. Do you know what I mean? Because you're saying it can't be undone. Sorry, it just holds it off and it doesn't leave any sort of physical damage. But what about the psychological damage of saying, all right, actually, I've made a mistake, I'm going to go through puberty now, and then you go through puberty in your mid-20s?
I'll answer that question in one easy way.
Mm-hmm.
What was the psychological damage that happened to me from having to go through it? Like, I went through something that was hell. It's like, do you know what? If I hadn't gone through, like, and I'm not saying, I think you should have to wait to 16 till you get estrogen, okay, and progesterone, right? But the thing is that if it's not completely irreversible, it's not completely irreversible, because obviously you don't grow as big as you would have. Okay, so say for example, I give a dog an implant, so I can, instead of taking the balls off, I can give them an implant. Okay, and that implant inhibits testosterone. Actually, they often get bigger than they would do, like taller. The long bones get bigger than if they've had. So if they've had the testosterone, they tend to get more than they would have done, but they don't get as big, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they're kind of more butch, I guess. But if you take that implant out, or you just leave it run till it dissolves after 6 months or 9 months, whatever it is, they'll start to reproduce testosterone. They'll turn back in exactly where they would have been. Maybe not as big as they would have been, but they won't be. It's not like they could permanently turned into a girl or something. Whereas if you and do you know what I think is really important is that we don't let tomboys have access to testosterone, because it is permanent. When you have testosterone, it is permanent. As doesn't matter what I do, I can't change my voice that much. I can't undo the fact that I've got still big shoulders reasonably for a dude, like for a girl, whatever. I can't undo that. But if I hadn't been on, if I'd had testosterone blockers, these things would have happened, and I wouldn't be half as fucked up as some of my baby girls just turned up. I wouldn't be half as fucked up as I am now if I hadn't gone through male puberty, and I didn't have to try and do stuff to kind of make up for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking that just the whole period when you were actually going through it, was that horrible? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you horrified by what's happening?
Because I was stuck in two places, right? And the thing was, like, for me, because clearly it didn't work that well on me. So I didn't even turn into like a big strong man. I just kind of like stuck halfway between the fucking two, which is awful. And I mean, so I didn't get a lot of the changes that you would have gotten. Sorry, my cat's just turned up and she's a slut. But yeah, like it when you're going through it and you're kind of, because I wasn't big enough or strong enough to fight for myself, like, so I couldn't, like, when I got bullied, I couldn't do anything about it. And and the thing was, it's like I didn't want to, because I was like, just leave me alone, just let me be a girl. And they're like, you're not a girl, you're a boy. It's like, so it was torture, like, and I wouldn't want anyone to go, like, and the thing is, like, I understand, like, I completely understand, like, when you and Nathan were talking about it, like, I understand, because when you're looking outside in, you're going like, well, you don't know, like, I didn't know what I was gonna do, like, you know, I don't, it's like, yeah, like, I understand that view, but darling, come and just, you know what, just live a day in my teenage, like, early teenage years, just live a day in my life, and you would never think that again. You would,
Yeah.
if you could be part of my thoughts, and like literally everything that I did in that day, you would come out of it and you would never think anything like that again. You go like, no, give them do all the things, right? So, and the thing is that I don't resent you or Nathan for thinking that, right? Because you don't know, like, you've never experienced, like, and you know, you said to me you've changed your mind over the last few months, whatever, you know. And
over the last, I'd say it's over the last few years, a couple of things happened. I spoke to a friend of mine. I put a post up, actually. It's funny you were talking about the tomboy thing. I put a post up. The probably was a little bit transphobic, if you like. It was of Brad. I think it was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's daughter. That at one point, I think the post was a bit misunderstood as well, because it was showing that at one point she was a real tomboy, this child, and everybody was celebrating the fact that they were letting their child grow up as trans, if you like. And then all of a sudden, fast forward a few years, and she was a girl, as in, you know, dresses, long hair, had completely gone the other way. And I was sort of saying, oh, look, when everybody was jumping on, celebrating, what they should have been doing is just leaving them alone, because actually she was just a tomboy, and everybody needs to stop focusing so much.
So with girls, I completely agree with you. And you know, and with it, like, there is a massive difference between male to female and female to male. Okay, because like tomboys are tomboys, and then they get to like 13, 14.
That's exactly
they
what happens.
And they turn into little stunners, and it's like,
yeah,
well, there you go.
So that's exactly what happens.
It doesn't happen my way. It doesn't happen.
No.
Like,
but so anyway, so the thing is that then a friend of mine commented on it, and because there was some offensive comments written on it. And then a friend of mine commented, and I spoke to her, and she told me about her child, saying that she's pretty sure her child is trans. And we weren't arguing, and she was the same as you. She was like, you're not going to offend me by your views, do you know what I mean? I know that you're a pretty decent human being, even if you do say something offensive. It's born of ignorance rather than any malice. And then from there, I sort of met that child briefly, and I saw it, do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, it just made me think a little bit, that actually, yeah, there's a lot about this that I don't understand. So maybe I should just shut up sometimes and listen.
Honestly, you don't necessarily even need to understand it. Like, do you know what? Like, I don't expect everyone to go like, yay, transgender. You know what? It's not even, it's kind of like accepting. It's just kind of like, whatever, you do you, girl.
Yeah.
And in the same way as that, I let you do you. It's like, do you know, I don't judge you. It's like, do you know, unless you're hurting someone, what's the problem? What is the problem?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, and the thing is, I think when it comes to children, that's why the likes of myself and Nathan, because it's children, you can't help but want everybody to say, well, we you know, we're worried that something bad's going to happen to children. That's what it's born of. Do you know what I mean?
It comes from a place of love, and I accept that, right? But it is, and I completely understand where y'all are coming from, okay? Like, but then that's why I'm here now to say to you, like, when I was that kid, like, I would kill you for saying it. I would kill you. Like, I wouldn't kill you now, but I would have killed you then, because I mean, like, get the fuck out of my face, girl. Like, honestly, this is my life. Let me live it. And particularly with, like I said, with male to female, like, I knew, like, if you saw me when I was crying my heart out at the end of my bed, going like, please God, this is when I still believed in God, like, please God, like, why have you done this to me? Like, why have you done this to me? Just let me wake up tomorrow as a girl, and then we'd be cool. And then I woke up and I was like, still no. And that is a horrible feeling that I can't explain to you. I mean, so, okay, so there is a logical argument to say, well, you could say, I woke up like, please God, let me wake up black. I get that. It, like, as a logical fail on my part, that is, I understand it. So like I'm not sort of ideologically wedded to this, but it's like, well, I am what I am. I wear dresses, I do this, I'm not interested in girls. So like, why would you have a problem with it? And everyone knew when I was young what I was like. So it wasn't it was actually more a thing when I tried to be a boy than it was when I was basically a little girl stuck in a boy's body. And it was really obvious, like really obvious, like, and literally, like, when I got to my 20s and I came out, like, no one was surprised.
No.
So it's like, well, I think it's not like I'm like a camp bloke. It's more of a, like, it's different. Like, I can't
it is different. I get it, because I see you as something completely separate as my gay friend. Do you know what I mean? So I know what you're saying when you're not just, I'm not looking at you as a camp bloke that's dressed as a woman. I see you as somebody that is living as a woman. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're not like what we was talking about. You're not the same to me as a woman. Do you know what I mean? But I absolutely sort of respect that it's clear that you were born in the wrong body, if you like. It's as simple as that. Do you know what I mean? And you've decided that you have to live as a woman, because that's what you feel like. And
do you know what? If I hadn't had to go through male puberty, like, I wouldn't even have to explain this to you, because you wouldn't know. Like, you look at Eve McDonald, you look at like Grace, you look at like the ones we just looked at, and should
we look at her again?
I mean, so she's only been on, okay, so that's Chloe. She's only been on hormones for a couple of months. So that's what she looks like as a dude in a dress. But you know, so there's a lot of things clearly going on with the biology. If that looks like that with only 2 months, like, hormones do not make, like, they take 3 or 4 years to really make a difference.
See, it's back to that argument about the third sex. Is there a third sex? Do we need to start? Is that what we're doing wrong in this country? Like you were saying, over in the sort of what islands are it? It's like the
Samoa, Fiji, like, so Fiji, Fiji, and Tonga.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned it on this attempt, but on the previous attempts I mentioned it. That actually, I think it was the Samoan football team had a documentary out called Next Goal Wins. You should watch it. It's good. Next Goal Wins, and it was about the fact that they were the worst ranked football team in the world, and a Dutch coach goes over there to try and make them better. And essentially, it's a sports documentary. But one of their team, one of the national team, described themselves, saying over there she's known. I don't even think she was saying she. I think she was like had her own title kind of thing, and was saying she. But they were saying that they're known as the third sex over there, and that it's no big deal, and completely accepted. Amongst all of these Samoan burly athletes, completely accepted, no big deal. Do you know what I mean? I wonder, have we just sort of missed a trick over here by not
the thing is that, okay, so when I go to, okay, so I live in rural Devon, I go down the pub and everyone accepts me.
Yeah.
Like completely accepts me. It's, you know, sometimes you'll get people like tourists come in and go like, what the fuck? Like, and then the next minute, like, I put on a show, like not a show, like like as in comedy show, like everyone's just like chipping each other, and then it's like it's fine. It's like, do you know what? Call me trans, like because I don't mind being called trans. It's like because I know it, like, and I think that's a really big thing. Is the fact that I know I'm not a woman. It's just I'm a facsimile of one. So
Right.
it's like so, and I do, and I kind of do feel that for third gender thing that's going on, and it's just like, do you know what? That it really, like, if I kind of take the piss, like, it diffuses it, like, and it's really easy to diffuse and make people feel comfortable, because it's, do you know what? I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. Like, even doesn't matter what I do. I don't want. Sorry, my cat's ass. Go on, go away. Like literally her ass.
I am currently doing a podcast with a trans woman stroking her pussy
with an ass in the face.
With an ass in the face, yeah.
But you know what? Like, so, like, but like one of the things like I kind of wanted to get across today was like I'm not a monster. I'm not fucking like I'm not gonna sit there and like preach at you. Like, if you know what, if it's not your thing and you don't want to have anything to do with me, like, you don't have to.
No,
I'm not
I think that's the majority, isn't it? I think that's the majority. I think this is what we were talking about. I just think that a bit too much is being asked from the average bloke all at once. Do you know what I mean? And actually,
asked by whom? Asked
by this very tiny minority of people. This very tiny minority of people that are making a lot of noise, and because politicians are all cowards and, you know, fucking more concerned about how they come across than what it is that they're actually doing, it's always the same with a loud minority. The politicians become so concerned about upsetting this tiny but very loud minority that they just, you know, pussyfoot around subjects. And, you know, it's been completely politicized, this. And, you know, we've now got politicians absolutely terrified when they get asked the question, what is a woman? Can a woman have a penis, kind of thing? And, you know,
let me answer it. Let me answer it now, because I'm a trans. Like, let me answer it. A woman is an adult human female with ovaries, cervix, and a uterus.
And that's it.
They may be removed, like, but they were born. They were born with, well, actually, no, hang on, because they might be born without bits of it.
I mean, that's
medical.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, so they'll have two X's in their chromosomes, and a male has XY. That doesn't, so that determines your physical sex, but that doesn't determine your gender, right? But what I would say to you is that I am not a woman. I never will be a woman. No matter what I do, I cannot change the fact that him in the sky decided to make me a boy. I can't fucking change that, right? All I can change is how I present to the world and try and convince you, and like not even like you can't just go like, you know what, whatever. Like, I'll treat you like this because that's kind of how you're gonna live your life, just in the same way as I don't know. I can't even think of an example.
No, but I know what you mean.
Everyone just lives, like, we all do our thing in life, and everyone goes like, John, are you an asshole? Yes or no? Then we're buddies. Like, if no, then we can be buddies. If you're a dick, then you're a dick, and I don't want to know you.
Yeah.
And so,
why, Emily? This is a good one. I know you wanted to talk about this anyway, but I genuinely want to know, why are so many people coming out as trans suddenly? The question I've got, is it an echo chamber? You know.
I'm probably gonna be a bit controversial here. So with the tomboy stuff, I would say it was more echo chamber.
Yeah.
With the trans girls, I would say a lot of it is down to pollutants. So chemical. So there's a thing. This is me as a vet, and like,
yeah.
So before I was a vet, I did my PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry, and I designed breast cancer treatments and hormone stuff. So so there are chemicals that are used in plastics, particularly.
I know all about this. I know where you're going with this.
So like BPA and things like that are something called endocrine disrupting chemicals. And they alter, like they inhibit certain. So when you have like endocrine pathways, it's not like A goes to via B to C. It goes like A, B, C, D all over the bloody place to get to like Z+1. And if you inhibit any part of that, it all goes horribly wrong. So, and particularly when the brain is growing in utero, and it is the in utero bit that is important in this. And this is why I think that you've got so much more trans things going on now, is that in utero. So there's a well-known thing called free Martinism in cattle. So if you've got twins in a cow, and one of them's male and one of them's female, the female will become something called a free martin, which is they grow up to be effectively male. So they get like an enormous clitoris, because a clitoris actually comes embryologically from the penis actually comes from a clitoris. So when we're embryos, we're all female. When we start, we're all female. So our testes actually start off as ovaries, and then under the process of epigenetics, they change how the cells are expressed. So it's called differentiation. And then they move down, they drag down with a ligament that pulls out to your ball sacks. Technical term. And right, but you start off as a female. Everyone starts off as a female. And in like various fish species, like they can change gender on the spot. Well, not literally on the spot, but under certain conditions, they'll change to female to male. A crocodile, its egg depends on its temperature that it's incubated at, whether it turns into a male or female. Okay, so it's not like everyone goes on about like the science. It's like, honey, if you've got a GCSE in science, that doesn't make you understand even the basics of science.
Yeah.
So like biology is one of the most complicated things in the universe. And I have to deal with it all the time when I'm dealing with things that have gone wrong in utero, like, during embryonic development. I'm dealing with it surgically or whatever. Like, that is like nature, like, doesn't follow the textbook, and it doesn't do what you think it's going to do. And things like genetics, like, when we learned at like GCSE, when you do that little thing was like whether you're going to have brown eyes or blue eyes, or ginger hair or like blonde hair, brown hair, whatever. That only holds for a really small section of physical characteristics. Most of genetics has got nothing to do with that at all. It's all like even individual. So when you're growing as an embryo, actually you grow as a fish for the first 30 odd days or something, right? And you have gill arches, you have full gill arches and everything, but all of those things are under like Hox genes, so that they turn on different genes depending on how far down the spine they are, right? And then you get your organs. You've got every cell in your body has got the same DNA, but so why is some of it a liver cell, some of it a skin cell, some of it a renal cell, whatever, lung cell, doesn't matter. What turns it into that? Well, it's something else telling it to do that because of its positions, right? So to just go like, oh, you got XY, fucking shut up. Like, that's not how genetics works. And just, it winds me up when people go, science, and it's like, you know nothing about science. That's the angriest I'm gonna get.
Right.
No, look, do you know what? Don't make the appeal to authority of science when you don't understand the science, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, what I'm not saying is that there is like, like I can be genetically, well, no, of course I can't be, right? But you can't just go and go like, oh, you're a boy because you got XY. It's like, well, yeah, technically, but there's lots of other things that's going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you interfere with that, with these chemicals, these endocrine disrupting chemicals, particularly when you're so do you remember thalidomide?
Yes.
So thalidomide is something called a tetranogen, so it like turns you into like a thing with, you know. Imagine same sort of thing happening except in your brain, and instead of you having, so like, because testosterone does happen, like has an effect in the growing brain in utero. If you've got something inhibiting that, then because your brain will automatically develop as female unless it's told otherwise, that's where the XY comes in. So if it's not told otherwise, it'll develop as female. And there, I think, is probably what's happening, is that these pollutants like BPA and other things that are involved with like plastics, rubber production, like all these things, and also pollutants in water, like particularly recycled water, where you've got like the contraceptive pill, because you don't need a lot of hormone to make a huge amount of action.
Right.
So I think that there's probably going on this whole thing where in utero, and I mean literally when you're a fetus, things that's meant to happen with your brain are being interrupted and causing you to turn not into a boy. Does that make sense? So it's not
no, that makes sense, because I sort of know what you're talking about, because Al Gore wrote a book, didn't he, where he was explaining that the plastic in our atmosphere is now, it's entered the food chain, and we're eating it. We're eating plastic, whether we like it or not. There was something recently came out saying that for the first time, plastic's now being found in our lungs, kind of thing. You know, so.
But it depends. So it's not the plastic itself.
No, but the chemicals,
the stuff that makes the plastic.
Right. Okay.
It's involved in other. So endocrine pathways are really important in everything. So like when I was developing cancer treatments, so breast cancer usually goes via estrogen. By the estrogen pathway, and it causes uncontrollable division of cells. You can give a drug called tamoxifen, which will hit it for ages. That's grand. But what cancer does is I say clever, but it's not clever, but it recruits a different cell signaling pathway, usually the epidermal growth factor receptor. So you can hit that then for a bit, and then he goes, I'm going to hit this one. I'm going to use this one now. And they do this whole kind of intertalking with these receptors. Like the drug that I invented actually hits and stops two at the same time, so it stops that resistance happening. But I've kind of gone off on one there. But
it's fine.
But the thing is that, so that's just one signaling pathway out of billions. And you know, why do you think we're all fat? It's not because we're eating more. It's not necessarily because we've had more processed food. It's because we've got these endocrine disruptors screwing up our metabolic pathways. So you know, you could, yes, if you eat a lot more food than you're meant to, yeah, you'll get fat. But there are plenty of people that can eat food like it's going. Like I've got friends who bitch because they can eat as much as they like and they won't put weight on, and I'm like, I tell you what, I'll take out my digestive tract and stick it in yours, and I'll have yours, and then do you know what? I'll be skinny and you can be the fat bitch.
So essentially, though, you think that it's science sort of behind it, and pollutants in the atmosphere is why we are having. Because I was thinking, well, has this always been the case, but people just they weren't able to say? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're seeing it in animals as well. So I see it in clinical practice every day. I see fat animals, and like people are swearing blind that they're not, you know, and we get the nurses to put them on diets, and you know, and they swear blind that they're doing it right. And it's like, well, why are they still fat? If you're swearing blind, either the animal's getting it somewhere else, or you're lying, or there's something else going on.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, since I've been on hormones, like, fuck me, I'm hungry all the time. Like, so hungry. So hungry. I used to be a skinny bitch. Like, then it was lockdown, and then it was hormones, and it's like, ah! So basically, I'm just going to kind of do my own little, what do you call bypass, gastric bypass.
Yeah. Do it yourself at your vet surgeon.
Right, I'm a shit surgeon, but I'll still do it anyway.
We'll move on, and we'll probably finish up here if that's all right with you. But we'll talk about the sports thing, because that's why this has all come to the forefront, because it had been going on for a while and questions had been getting asked, and the word transphobe was getting thrown at people. But I think that it's got to a point where people have had enough, and I think the tide's starting to turn. Fallon Fox transed ages ago and then fractured a girl's skull. Fallon Fox was I think a US Marine that done cage fighting, trans to a woman, participated in cage fighting against a woman, fractured the woman's skull. Just ridiculous. We've got the Leah Thomas thing recently, hundreds and hundreds of rankings down the men's swimming, trans to a woman, all of a sudden number one swimmer.
Hasn't even trans. Sorry, hasn't even a trans woman.
So has literally just said, is that a case of Leah Thomas just said, I identify as a woman, so therefore now I compete against women?
So she has been on HRT for I think a year, and like the testosterone levels in the blood have come back as being like really low. The thing is again, this goes back to the biology and the medicine. So the effect when you're growing, when you're young and you're say this big, as you're growing, okay, that's when sex hormones have their biggest effect. Okay, particularly testosterone. So it makes your long bones grow like real big, but it also like changes the type of muscle that you have. So there are several different types of muscle. The density of it, how it attaches and where it attaches. So if you've got so like lever forces, right? If you've got shoulders out here, arms like this, right, and you've got the attachments, doesn't matter if you reduce the power in them later, you are still going to have more lever action and more torque, right?
Yeah.
So and you saw Leah Thomas stood there next to these girls.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
And it was like, honey, how can you stand there and not feel shame? Like,
yeah, it's
going on in your head, girl, that you can stand there and look, I beat you, bitches. It's like, you got feet like flippers.
The girls, you saw it straight away. The girls celebrated amongst themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Like, absolutely. And this is how we even got talking in the first place.
Who was the weightlifter as well? Was it the Olympics?
Oh, the New Zealand one. Oh shit, I can't remember.
I've forgotten the name, but again, somebody pointed out to me when someone was saying, "Oh, well, that they've been on this treatment and that treatment." Somebody just said that person is mid-40s and are now competing against young girls in their physical prime. So if you're telling me that at 40 odd years old, you can compete against the physical prime of sort of biological female, then I'm telling you that you've got an unfair advantage, because I'm 45 I'm coming up to 45 in June, and I can't compete against people. Do you know what I mean?
No, and do you know what? So like here we're talking like really specifically about professional sport.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. So at social level, like for years there have been girls play on boy teams.
Yeah, of course, it happens with us.
Now I am not a sporty girl.
No.
And I am shit at anything that involves physical activity. But sometimes I'll play with the girls, like on the cricket team. I can't throw a ball more than 10 feet. Like, seriously, I'm like, it's terrible. It's embarrassing. Like, literally, I bowled. Like, so we had nets. I've got 3 nets. I'm in the middle of the net. There's like people in the other one net. Like I was like, nah, like that. It went over the top of the net, bowled the girl out in the next net. And it was like, I mean, that's amazing. But amazingly bad, but still amazing. So, like, do you know what? Like, there is no way I'm going to compete with any girl. Joe, literally, I'm only allowed in the team if there's no one else.
Make up the
numbers, not because I'm good, it's because I'm so shit I can't make the team.
Right.
Of girls. It's like, oh God, I'm so bad. So, do you know what I mean? It's like, okay. And I don't, and no one because all the people that know me know I'm a girl, right? So, and they treat me like, so they know that I'm useless in sport, and it's just like, and I'll say the other thing, like that's a tranny, but she's shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm shit. So it's not an issue. But yeah, but when it comes to professional sport, when you got someone who is trying to compete,
I was going to say, do you know what? I don't even, because I like sports and I participate in some sports, and I don't even think that it's professional level. I think it's once you're taking the sport seriously and you're just you're competing, even at amateur level. Once you're competing to win, that's when it becomes completely unfair, because so where does it end? Are we going to get to a stage where a man can turn around and say, well, actually, I now identify as a woman, so I'm going to go enter the boxing ring, because someone will die. Do you know what I mean? Like, someone will die.
Like, so so that's an interesting call. Okay, so what if a girl is playing, let's say, for example, like a girl that's like they let a girl play in a man's rugby team. She plays on the wing, like she's not even in the front, in the forwards, and then she gets snotted. Right? Now she's chosen to play in the men's team, and they've let her, and she gets snotted and neck broken, like so when they didn't mean to hit, like, I mean, it happens to men as well, but compared to a man, a girl is going to be a lot more fragile, right? But a bloke snots her because it's like, well, she's on the pitch, why shouldn't I snot her? Right? So we're okay, so because we're concentrating, like, and everyone's been concentrating on like the blokes competing in the female arena. Well, hang on, girls have worked their way because they're like, no, girl power, right? Now hang on, girl, like, you can't have it both ways, right? So either we stop girls playing in boy teams and everything, and we go back to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Guides, and we do that.
I think it's all right for people to play in each other's teams until it becomes serious, and that can be at amateur level. It's when people start taking it serious. So when people are actually competing, right, I want to win this league.
Sport by definition is competitive.
Yeah, but I mean, look, we can go out and have a friendly kick around amongst me and my mates. Do you know what I mean? Or we can all of a sudden be trying to win something. It does get a bit different.
So when does it become? When's the definition though? When?
Oh, I don't know.
And I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
So you just said when it becomes serious. Well, when's it serious? And do you know what? Even within a team, like, you're playing a friendly, you'll have some guys that are like, we're gonna kill, kill everything, and others of us like, no, we're just having a laugh.
Yeah,
like,
chill out. I'm just here to score some goals. You know what I mean?
So everyone, but everyone's quite, particularly in a team sport, and I totally, like, when it comes to combative sports, UFC or boxing or whatever, you should never have a man and a woman in the ring. I don't even care, like, what, like, you could like inject the bloke with like a deadening thing in his leg, so his leg doesn't work. He's still going to be able to hit the bird harder than she's going to hit him, except Amanda Nunes, because she's going to smash anyone. Like, do you know what?
But see, look, this is what you say about Amanda Nunes, but the truth is, if Amanda Nunes goes in with, a man's going to smash her to bits. I
want to see it though. I do want to see it though, because not because I want to see her get smashed. It's kind of like, I've seen her smash people so fucking badly. It's like, that's okay. Yeah. And she's even said she reckons she can smash a bloke. So go on then, let's see you do it.
Clarissa Shields does it in boxing. She keeps saying that she thinks that she can fight a man. Someone's going to end up getting killed. Like, that's where it's going to end up. Especially, let's get away from the sort of level that we're talking where it is just joining the world. But at professional level, I just can't see how a Leah Thomas can be allowed to compete in women's swimming.
No, it's insane. It's absolutely just, but you have to, like, it's a political thing. It's nothing to do with, like, it's like virtue signaling. Look at us, whereas liberal as they come, and it's like, you know what? You're not being liberal. Like, that isn't liberal. That's
no, you're being stupid. You're being stupid. That's what you're being. Yeah, it's got nothing to do.
Because it's destroying. I mean, like, let's be honest. No one gives a fuck about women's sports. Let's be honest.
Some of it. But I know what you mean. Really? Women's sports isn't as popular as men's sports, but that doesn't mean that they haven't got a right to compete.
Absolutely, but no one wants to pay to watch it. Like, pay people want to watch. Like, I mean, they did this thing where they had like the American women's soccer, like, US team play like.
Oh yeah, 15-year-old team, 15-year-olds,
boys in the park, jumpers for goalposts, and they slashed them. They absolutely beat the fuck out of them without even trying.
I mean, that to sort of argue against that, I watch women's boxing. Now, those women, again, it's, you know, two elite male athletes are going to be hitting each other harder, faster, etc. But I still find women's boxing just as entertaining to watch because they're matched fairly. Do you know what I mean?
Actually, in fairness, I take it all back, because like during the lockdown, we play girls and we come around here, we watch all the boys come around and we would watch we play poker and watch UFC.
Yeah.
And the girls' fights were better. They were better. Yeah. And I tell you what, the thing that I really was surprised at was the Women's World Cup rugby. Fuck me, then girls can play rugby. Yeah. Like, they were good. And so, and actually, to be fair, often better than some of the men's games that I watch. So, you know, maybe it's maybe I'm the one that's wrong there. Maybe I need to rethink what I just said.
You need to start watching some more women's sports, Emily. That's what you need to do. But I think most people are coming around to the I'm not even going to say idea, the realization that you cannot have people that were born biologically as men competing against women at top level sports.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether it will end up different because of the stuff that we were talking about regarding puberty blockers and things like that. I'm not a scientist at all.
Okay, so you know, those girls that we saw the pictures of, okay, so they've not gone through the same process because they've not gone through male puberty. They won't have the advantages that we were talking about. So that would be an interesting thing to see what happens if
in a few years' time.
Most of us who are trans have got no fucking interest in sport whatsoever. Like, literally none. Like, we're girls, and like most girls couldn't give a shit about sport. So do you know what I mean? It's like, I do the stage, I do singing, I do music, and that's me. Like, sport, it's shocking. So, like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I've got no interest in it. I never have. And like most everyone that I know is trans has got no. So almost, and this is a cynic in me, because let's be honest, none of those women that we just mentioned that are trans look even vaguely like girls.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Let's just
no. Well, this is the argument. This is the argument, isn't it? Like, you know, I feel bad because Leah Thomas clearly wants to live as a woman, and that's fine.
Does she?
I would say yes. She's transitioned. Do you know what I mean? Who are we to say that she isn't? Do you know what I mean? That she hasn't felt the same things that you felt growing up. Leah Thomas has felt as well. But the simple fact is that Leah Thomas has the body of a big man. Do you know what I mean? So it can't be allowed. It just can't be allowed. And I think everyone's on the same page, and I think people are now starting to say, all right, let's stop trying to appease the very vocal tiny minority saying this is right, and actually just say no, this isn't.
Yeah, but the problem, the thing is, Ricky, is what's happening is that people are fighting back against that, but then they're now like, it's kind of the collateral damage. So people are becoming more, and I use this word advisedly, but they're becoming more transphobic. And I don't mean that in, you know what I mean, don't you?
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
So they're becoming more kind of anti-it when they weren't before, because they're going like, nah, the piss is being taken. And it's like, I get that. And it's just like, this is why I'm here, because I'm like, no, stop. Like, no. None of us want this shit. None of us, no. None of us want any of this kind of weird ass pink head, fucking green beard, kind of like, I'm a lady shit. No, fuck off. It's like, those of us who present properly and have gone out of our made an effort, being on, made an effort, like, kind of, if you could accept us, that'd be great. But when you've got like people doing that thing where it's like, I'm non-binary, accept me as female, I want to go and use the women's toilets, it's like, well, if I'm proper trans and I don't use the women's toilets, like, why the fuck are you going in with your beard into women's, even though it's cubicles and like, what are they doing, sniffing the seat? But but at the end of the day, just don't be a cunt.
Don't be a cunt.
It comes back to what we said.
I think that is the perfect place to end our podcast. That was meant to be about the trans issues, but I think we're just gonna retitle it "Don't Be a Cunt." Ricky and Emily discuss how to not be a cunt in life. So,
what are we doing next?
Hey, listen, I've got a feeling we'll do some more at some point. Hopefully, I'll sort out the Wi-Fi and that. But right, I just want to say thank you for doing this. Thank you for the amount of work you put in, because I know that you put together loads of notes. I know you were nervous. I've been nervous too. Anybody watching, apologies for the fact that I think the picture's a bit jittery. Just hopefully you just pay attention to the conversation that we're having. If you could press subscribe and like and share and all that jazz, that'd be very helpful. Emily, thank you for coming on to the Outside Looking In podcast. I shall bid you farewell. Bye.
Bye everyone.